sweet homebrew eases the pain. Oh, hello. I'm Justin Hawley. You may remember me from such stellar blockbusters as Year of the Dog and Year of the Ox. I'm here today to help you understand how I actually made a 7-foot-tall infinity mirror dodecahedron. Yes, it rolls right off the tongue. Alright, let's get to it. So basically this was a 9-month project, mainly for correcting mistakes as well as just the sheer amount of print time. This started out as a project for an art competition, but I made a small prototype first, like the classic dodecahedron infinity mirror that everyone knows. But I really wanted to make one that was actually truly like life-size and would be more captivating in that sense. But yeah, the sheer amount of time was also the 3D printing that was involved. There's 30 edges in a dodecahedron, 20 vertices, and 12 sides, so it was quite a lot of print time. Each edge was comprised of about 3 pieces basically. I'm not sure if you can actually see in this right here, but it essentially has, it has slots. It goes into one, it goes in the other, and then I had screws in there as well as super glue. I learned that super glue is actually not that efficient when it comes to something like this. It does not have the strength, at least for the materials that I was working with. And unfortunately, I also made the mistake of actually using PLA for a lot of this until I realized just how weak it is. I knew it was brittle, but I didn't know it was so weak. So I switched to PETG after that, and that was kind of fine after that. But anyways, it was difficult to actually create a project in CAD that actually, well, Fusion 360 specifically, that actually could turn a basic kind of primitive shape like this into something that had all these moving parts and actually fit together really nicely and so on. So I guess I won't ramble on too much about the CAD because I'm actually really terrible at it and I actually make a lot of mistakes. So thank goodness for forums, that's all I can say. But anyways, these were 3 parts together, and I think each edge took about 11 hours to print, and that's even at like level 3 layer height. So it was actually pretty time consuming actually, yeah. And looking back, I probably would have actually used, I would have put a thicker perimeter around each of the parts, maybe more infill, just to give it that real extra strength, even though it does take a lot more time and it's actually more costly in the end with more filament and so on. But I think when it comes to a project like this, you still don't want to cheap out on efficiency and quality and so on. So so once I had the basic principle going, I also printed these little like corners that slot into the end of each thing, so like that, and then you'd put another one on and you'd screw them in these like holes here, so it had some foundation, but it was still relatively weak, and you could not wobble it or anything. And I actually had a few mishaps and it was very awful. I don't even want to go into it. But once you have the structure together, I did these like 33 LED strips. I'll actually point to what they look like. So basically, like I mentioned before, there are 33 LEDs for each strip, and I soldered them all with oh, by the way, these are addressable LEDs for anyone who hasn't worked with that before. I soldered the different corners based on the general pattern that I wanted. Like I think at the beginning when it was on its bottom face, it was like a ring around the pentagon, and then each edge sprung up in like 2 other edges or something in parallel. And yeah, it was it's pretty hard to sort of verbally explain, but anyways, you can actually configure this any way you want, of course. There's no like rules about how you have to wire up a dodecahedron, but it's fun to make it more in parallel, I think, in general, though. I think if some of them could be kind of moving at the same time, it makes these infinity patterns look even trippier.
So, but anyways, so I think that's pretty much it. I mean, obviously I was powering this by a microcontroller. I was using an Arduino Mega. The code actually was another thing that took me a bunch of weeks. I was kind of mixing a lot of fast LED or fast LED library patterns together and just different things people made, but I actually used a tactile switch to switch them, so that added more complications to it because sometimes it's difficult to get code to actually work with a switch to, like to change different patterns and so on. So but anyways, yeah, so that's it. And then once this was done, I had to actually buy the pentagons. I had to buy 12 of them from a plastics manufacturer. It wasn't actually acrylic, as you might think. I looked into that, but actually acrylic fractures quite easily at the corners. Actually, if you actually drill way too close to the corner, it can actually fracture. So it was actually better to use polycarbonate. Now, polycarbonate actually scratches more easily, so you have to be aware of that. So just be extra careful if you're using polycarbonate. But it was quite strong. It's actually bulletproof apparently, and it worked really well for this. So for the base, you can see that it's essentially just a tripod, but there was a lot of design that went into this. It was probably one of the hardest parts of the whole project, actually, because there were a lot of factors that involved stability, strength, amount of material, and cost in terms of, the thickness you want to print or the robustness of the shape, as well as the relationship between parts that are vulnerable to stress, like buckling, for example, of the edges. So I'll just show you like a little bit closer what I mean. So if you look here, you can actually see that I build each leg with 3 giant pieces. They were silk PLA, so they were actually brittle, but the size of them and the amount of infill, I think I had about 15%, and I had a level 4 perimeter for the thickness of each part. Layer height was 0.3, sorry. So yeah, they took a long time to print, like 16 hours for each one, and you can see why. They're just really big. I used some reinforcing of PETG, again around the top parts over there. You can kind of see how the 3 legs kind of converge together into this sort of brace system on the top. So that was, again, a lot of novice engineering, which was really hard to do. And then I had these guys over here, and these are just sort of to protect it from stresses if someone was to touch one of the corners of it, because that would actually really make it wobble. It's really good at just sitting by itself like this, but if you actually like touch it, one of the corners, before I had those braces, it would actually wobble, and that's very dangerous when you have over 100 pounds of material. Over here you can actually see the sort of load-bearing column that I added to sort of essentially handle just the center of gravity of the whole thing. And it's better to sit on something that's really small and thick rather than a bunch of arms and nothing else. So at least that's the way I see it, and that seems to have worked out well. And then you can see the sort of truss arms that I kind of got the idea from Bridges, and that's kind of just to help prevent the buckling of of these joints right here. But that's definitely not enough. I mean, I had these parts go in together, then they were super glued inside and sanded, of course, on the inside, and then these were some screw holes here. So like, this thing is just not moving. And yeah, you can see all the screw holes down here. Let's see, what else did I have? Yeah, I mean, and also I forgot to mention before that there's a lot of injections of power and data cables and stuff like that for different edges. So I actually had to kind of guide all of the wires into that kind of rail system you see inside, and they just kind of all converged to the bottom. So there were, yeah, a number of sort of continuations of the LED strips at the corners, but there were also a lot of parallel power and data and ground injections. And for the last part of this, there's the power supply. This has a fan in it, of course. That's very helpful for this amount of power that you're using. I actually got a 60 amp power supply in order to handle, well, the estimated maximum load, but like accumulating all of the load maximums for all the different LED strip rolls that I bought. But actually, I mean, at least for one of the tests, I only really read about 6 amps. So it's, I think it's debatable as to whether or not this thing really sucks a lot of power, but I'm not a pro electrician or electronics technician or anything like that, so definitely seek the help of somebody who actually knows this stuff really well if you're going to do this kind of project. And over here is the Arduino Mega that I used for this, and I printed a little case for it. Definitely a good idea to protect that as much as possible. It's just powered the entire thing by just this like regular power bar that has a surge protector on it. And there's the toggle switch, the blue switch over right here. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, I guess. This is all the power and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's about it. I hope I covered everything. Let me know in the comments. Well, I hope you enjoyed my video and saw what was possible with insanity mixed with excessive periods of time. Please feel free to ask any questions in the comments section, and if you have absolutely nothing better to do, you might want to consider subscribing to my channel. Cheers!